Hello and welcome back. It is the best time of the year. No, not for Christmas. Who cares about some fat, judgmental, milk-chugging Amazon wannabe giving coal to children? No, I'm talking about World Juniors, the only good thing about winter in my opinion. Pre-tournament action has started and the tournament will get underway on Thursday, and this always gives us a great look at some future NHLers and how they perform in high-pressure situations. Now, I'm definitely excited to watch that, but Christmas also brings a very weird fantasy schedule, so let's do what we always do, and let's break it down for Week 12. Only 41 games this week, no games on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We have a heavy Monday with 13 games. We've got 8 on Friday, 11 on Saturday, and 9 on Sunday. So what we'll want to do to get a 4-game week out of this is to combine some schedules. And what you see here are teams that play Monday, Friday, and Saturday. With this back-to-back, you get 3 games here, and then you can drop all your players on Saturday night or Sunday morning and pick somebody up and stream them on Sunday. So there's a bunch of teams that have this schedule. Really quickly, before we break down this play, there's a couple of teams that only have 2 games. You're looking at Florida, Utah, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Ottawa, LA, Nashville, and the Rangers. And then there's 2 teams that only play once, and that is Seattle and Colorado. So hope that you're facing McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar on a week like this where they're only getting 1 game and you have a chance to succeed. But with that said, the rest of these teams play 3 times, and this is the breakdown for these teams that have that Monday, Friday, Saturday. And you'll notice a really weird quirk. There's a number of home and homes. So Boston has a home and home with Columbus, Carolina with New Jersey. And then you also have a couple of other schedules that are similar. San Jose on the road at Vancouver, and then home on a back-to-back, which is a little bit better in terms of travel. They're one of the few teams that doesn't have to travel with this setup. And then you've also got Toronto here with Winnipeg, and then at Detroit and back home against the Capitals. So 2 difficult games here for Toronto. One, relatively easier game in division, but with some travel involved. So these are some of the teams that you can pick up. These guys that are going to play Monday, Friday, Saturday. And then what you'd want to do is stream somebody from one of these teams for Sunday. So there's a number of games you can choose from to try to find that Sunday streamer. But one thing, just a note of caution here, you got to use your head. If you know that there are other smart players in your league that are going to do something like this, do the opposite. You grab players who play Monday and Friday, and then you grab someone Friday night or Saturday who plays Saturday, Sunday. So that would be the way to get around this. Otherwise, there are a number of players that you can add. There's 9 games on this Sunday, and they have a pretty good stagger. So 3 o'clock all the way to 9 o'clock. You should still have somebody. I mean, if you need that last-minute ad, you've got Flyers Kings at 9 Eastern on Sunday. So there's a number of players to pick from. And because of the fact that we don't have a 4-game week, we have a ton of teams with 3-game weeks, and there's no real standouts in terms of volume. What we're going to do this week is just take a look at some of the hottest players in the league using the Player Hub and the Goalie Hub, both of which have been updated in the last week. So let's do that right now. Let's start with the Player Hub. So in this section, I've got about 10 guys that we have to keep our eye on, and you're going to see them here in the hot section, and we'll go through them one by one. There's a couple of guys that have higher ownership percentages, but I've been getting some requests for that lately, so we'll go through each and every one of these guys that I have on my list. Not every one of these guys here, but we'll start it off with Bryan Rust, who is red hot. He's 43% owned, single position right winger in the ideal shooting percentage range, 12 points in his last 6 games, an even split, 6 goals, 6 assists. You can see him skyrocketing, and whenever he's healthy, he is this productive. He's around a point per game guy with some decent shot volume. 2.85 shots per game is really nice. Gets a hit per game as well, so a decent peripheral floor. Excellent goal scoring numbers. That's a 40-ish goal pace. And then on top of that, he's close to a point per game, 0.93 points per game. So really good stuff from Bryan Rust. He might be available in a 12-teamer at 43%. Now, the next guy on this list, Tolvanen, 16%. He's cooled off just a touch. No points in his last 2 games, but he did have 7 hits and then 3 hits in those 2 games. So he's still doing what he always does, 93rd percentile and hits, 2.76 hits per game there. He's 16% owned, dual position eligibility, so that's going to factor in as well. Not the most productive offensive player with 15 points in 34 games 4 on the power play is decent for a guy who's usually a middle 6 winger. But with that said, 5 points in his last 6, so he is still relatively hot. But they do spread out the scoring there in Seattle, so this is maybe a factor of them playing a bunch of times over the last 2 weeks. But with that said, the nice peripheral floor, shot volume could be a little bit higher, and the offensive production will come and go, but at least you'll still get hits. Now, a guy that we touched on before the season started, Dylan Guenther, was in my one of my preseason videos highlighting young players that were having breakout seasons last year. A second half player as well for Dylan Guenther. He's got 32 points on the year in 32 games, exactly a point per game. Nice shot volume at 2.53. Power play numbers off the charts at 98th percentile. Not a lot of hits and blocks, but you don't really care because he's so good offensively. And right now, he's in a 7-game point streak with 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points, and 6 of those points on the power play in that 7-game span. So incredible numbers offensively for Guenther. He's hot and cold. That's kind of what you would expect with goal scorers. He was hot, really, really hot to start the season, kind of faded a little bit, but he's still produced relatively decently for a younger player. And he's still around a point per game average, half a goal per game, half an assist per game. Nice even split there. So even for a goal scorer, he's picking up some assists, and he's a staple on that power play. So worth mentioning there. He's 74% owned, but if for whatever reason he's available in your league, he's red hot right now, and you definitely want to go and scoop him up. Speaking of single position right wingers, we've got Kirill Marchenko. He might be available, 58% owned. He's got 9 points in his last 8 games, and he's only gone scoreless once over that stretch, and that was on December 12th versus Washington, who's a good defensive team. He's also at exactly a point per game, a little bit less of a split in terms of he's got a little bit higher assist numbers, a little bit lower goal scoring numbers, shot volume a little bit better than Guenther, and the power play is still really good, but not quite as good as Guenther. So you're still getting a lot of the same stuff that you would out of Guenther, but you're getting it at a lower ownership percentage. At 58%, he should be maybe not even available in a 12-team league, but 10-teamers, he's probably there for you. Rickard Rakell, I mentioned last week, he's still really hot, 51% owned, 3-position eligible, which is huge. He's got 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points in his last 11 games, so it goes further back than this 10 points in 6 that he has right now. And although his shooting percentage is slightly high at 18.5%, that's well within the range. That's really close to the ideal range in terms of what would factor in for a goal scorer between 20 and 50 goals per season. So this is manageable. It is sustainable. He does give you really nice hits in terms of his peripheral floor and a block per game, 1.82 hits, 1 block per game. Shot volume is a touch low, but with that said, he's still getting a ton of goals. So 0.44 goals per game, 15 on the year is really nice for Rickard Rakell. And I said in the preseason, he was on one of my preseason videos, I said if he shoots the puck, he will be a valuable asset in the top 6 in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh has started to play a lot better, so that is worth noting as well. You can see Letang down here. He's been relatively hot over his last 6. He's got 6 points, relatively low shooting percentage, but he is a peripheral beast with decent hits and blocks, power play numbers, and some shot volume there. But he is around the same ownership percentage, 75% ownership percentage for Letang, so he might not be there for you. If you're looking for a defenseman, there's not that many on this list, but Jackson Lacombe, 12% owned, and this has been a theme with Anaheim. They've used a number of different guys on that power play. Zellweger still gets some time. They've given Lacombe some power play time, and he has a couple of power play points, 2 power play points on the year, 11 points on the season in 24 games. However, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in his last 4 games. So it says 5 and 5, but even the first of those games was a 0-point effort. But still, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in his last 4 is really nice. Ideal shooting range for him. And you're not getting a ton of peripherals, no hits. You're getting decent blocks, and the shot volume could be worse. But this is one of your best defensive options, and he's only 12% owned. So a guy getting a little bit of power play time, putting up some good numbers right now, and that is Jackson Lacombe at 12%. So one of the only defensemen on this list. We'll keep it moving, and we'll talk about a guy that I didn't necessarily highlight in the preseason at all because I don't like rookies, but he has been incredible. Macklin Celebrini, 64% owned, single position center, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in his last 5 games. And he's been doing it all year long. So he's right around a point per game, slightly under at 22 points in 23 games. Right under half a goal per game pace. Shot volume is excellent. 3.39 shots per game, 98th percentile there. He's getting the power play points. Obviously, he's going to be featured on that power play. So really excellent numbers from Celebrini. He's probably producing better than a guy like Connor Bedard, who more than likely went higher in your draft. So this has been excellent value if you found Celebrini anywhere. And if you can find him now at 64%, if you're in a 10-team league, he would probably be worth it, as the Sharks do have that Monday, Friday, Saturday schedule this week. Now, Bobby McMann is one of our lower ownership guys this week, 6% owned, single position left winger. He's got 5 points in his last 3 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, and you're getting a decent amount of shot volume, 2.56 shots, 1.72 hits per game, and the goal numbers have been pretty good, 12 points total in 25 games, 8 goals. So not bad for a depth player in Toronto. And he's been, up and down, started at a 47, went down, was injured a little bit, I believe, and then comes back and he starts to shoot back up to where he was previously. So at 6%, you could find a lot worse. And he's playing pretty well. I believe he does get occasional looks in the top 6, which would be the main reason to grab him if he's getting that line assignment with any of their top studs. Now, Wright and Dobson, we've talked about in previous weeks. We kind of touched on Nichushkin a little bit, but I want to give him his due right now. 60% owned, 3 goals, and a 3-game goal streak. He's also got 4 points in those 3 games. He's got 7 points in his last 8. Shooting percentage is high, but with that said, he is a player who plays net front on that power play unit, and he does like to score a lot of his goals around the net, which means that shooting percentage number isn't as important. Guys like Kreider, Pavelski, those net front guys, they're obviously going to have a high shooting percentage because they're not taking a ton of shots from distance, and they're scoring a lot when they're inside. So that is the case with Nichushkin. 2.33 shots per game is okay. I'd like to see him a little bit higher than that, but well over half a goal per game pace. 10 goals in 18 games is excellent. 2 power play points, but he wasn't featured on the power play when he first got back into the lineup, so I would expect him to continue to trend upward as he gets more power play production and more time on that top unit. Now, as we scroll down, there's a couple more guys. There's maybe 3 guys we got to touch on here. Shane Pinto is one of your other lower ownership guys. 5% owned, single position center, 3 goals in his last 4 games. And then, it says 3 goals in the last 7, but of those, it's 3 goals in the last 4. And not great offensive numbers on the season, only 6 points in 24 games. But right now, Ottawa is rolling, and you're going to want access to somebody, and Shane Pinto might be one of the few guys you can get access to. So at 5% ownership, he might be one of your best options if you're looking for a Senator. If you're looking for another single position center who's been really good, Logan Cooley. This has been a guy that I touched on a little bit in preseason. I grabbed him in one of my leagues and dropped him at some point when he went cold. Just a bit under a point per game. Assist numbers are really good. Power play numbers are really good. Shot volume is not bad, but it could be better. And you can see him trending up basically back here since the 4th of December, but really it goes further back than that. Since November 21st, 7 assists in a 4-game point streak, 3 power play points, 8 hits. Hits are not something that you would think of from him. He's only 42nd percentile there, but he's been more involved over the last couple of games. The average shooting percentage is definitely sustainable. I would expect him to score a couple more goals off of this, and he is also featured on that power play, kind of like Guenther is. They have 2 units, and they use both units, but both units are relatively productive. He's got 8 power play points on the year, which is nice as well. The last guy we'll talk about is one of the hottest guys in the entire league right now, Gabe Vilardi. 9 points in his last 7, 4 goals, 5 assists. But even with that, he's got 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points in his last 8 games. So it goes a little bit further back than that. He's relatively hot and cold, and right now he's red hot. So ride this streak while you can. Maybe that starts to fade as we hit the 3-game break for Christmas. But with that said, if he can continue this, it is one of those files that you can get access to. 49% ownership, center, right wing, dual eligible, which is valuable as well. Power play numbers are great. Shot volume is a little bit low. Goal numbers are pretty good, 94th percentile there. You're just not getting a lot of peripherals if he's not scoring. So hopefully you can ride out this hot streak. This extremely high shooting percentage may not be sustainable. But with that said, when he's hot, you obviously got to keep him in your lineup. And once he starts to go cold, recognize it immediately. And how would you recognize when he goes cold? Well, on the Player Hub, you would just look at this, the not list. So right now we're looking at a couple of interesting data files here. Ross Colton is not necessarily that cold. He's not minus 15 points cold. But what has happened is he's not scoring anymore. 2 goals in the last 8 games. And you can see here, he was one of the best players in all of fantasy before the injury. Comes back and kind of gets bumped off that top power play unit. And so his production suffers, but he's still hitting everything that moves. He's still shooting a lot. And he did get a ton of power play points when he was there and a bunch of goals. 10 goals in 18 games is the same as Nichushkin. So this is a really decent file. He's dual position eligible. And he's a guy that I went to earlier in the season, and I wouldn't be shocked to go back to him again. He's usually pretty productive. He's center left wing, dual eligible, and he's only 36% rostered right now, which is about half what he was earlier in the season. But we're not going to spend too much time on this. We're going to keep it moving and talk about the goaltending trends. We're not going to go on this level of detail, but we do want to touch on some things as there has been some movement in the goaltending. Looking at the goalie hub, I've now added this last 2 weeks stat bar down at the bottom. So this gives you a sense of not just how they've been performing lately, but also have they been starting at all? Well, Linus Ullmark has definitely been starting, and he's back to his normal Vezina Trophy form. 3 games, 3 wins, 1.33 goals against, 955 save percentage, but he's also on a 7-game winning streak that dates back to December 5th. So he's been red hot throughout the month of December. He will probably be featured in the Players of the Month that NHL on Fantasy on Ice does for NHL.com. So he's been an incredible goaltending story in the month of December. But another story has been the Vancouver goaltending. Kevin Lankinen did get a start, decent 2 goal against, average 900 save percentage, but didn't get the win. Played pretty well, but again, did not get the W. And as a Lankinen owner, this hurts because Demko way down here has been playing more, but not necessarily playing all that great. 3 games played, 1 win, 3 goals against, average 900 save percentage over the last week. Only 1 win in 4 games this year. Save percentage not great. Goals against not great. He's right around expected, and the team defense is pretty good. So this should trend up over time. But with that said, he has been a little bit underwhelming. It's worth noting that he's coming off a serious injury, or we don't even actually know what his injury is, but he's coming off of an injury where it might take him a couple games to find his form. So I wouldn't panic if you're a Demko owner, but I would if you're a Lankinen owner and you're worried about him losing starts to Demko. Now, quick check since we're at the bottom of the hub. Georgiev not faring much better with San Jose. 2 games, no wins, 4 goals against, average 875 save percentage. So that's not great. As we're down here, we'll also look at Tristan Jarry, who you can probably find on the waiver wire. 2 games played, 1 win, 3.5 goals against, 877 save percentage. He's only 24% owned, and he's getting the start tonight against New Jersey. So if you're watching this Saturday and you need a goaltending start, I don't know if that's the best place to start him because the Devils are red hot right now. But with that said, he's got 3 wins in his last 5 starts. They're not all Picassos. They don't all necessarily look great statistically, which is why he's still down here on the hub. 7 wins in 14 games is not bad. The save percentage is. The goals against is bad as well below expected, and the team defense is atrocious. So that's why he's all the way down here. We're getting a Jesper Wallstedt start today, so team defense is excellent. But one thing that I did want to note, because Wallstedt's starting and because Fleury started, no starts for Gustafsson this week. So that's worth noting. Hopefully you guys ended up playing him this past week and he didn't start at all. So that can hopefully help you guys out. As we turn and look at a couple of other guys, Ilya Sorokin has been very disappointing over the past couple of starts now. I think it's 3 or 4 starts in a row where he's given up 4 goals. No wins, 2 games played, 4 goals against, 822 save percentage. This is very disappointing. The Islanders are disappointing. The Sabres are disappointing, as we will momentarily look at UPL, who's also been really bad. Down here at 42, 3 games played, no wins, 4.3 goals against, 797 save percentage. So hopefully you guys took UPL and traded him sometime back in mid-November when he was still giving you some value, because he's kind of dropped off a cliff here. And with that said, Devin Levi, who I believe is a little bit further down, actually has slightly better numbers, but they just can't get any wins out of him. So he's not been starting that much. He did play a game this week, 4 goals against, 900 save percentage. So slightly better than, actually definitely better than UPL. But with that said, he's not getting a ton of starts. I would have figured that he would get a couple more starts, as they have invested a lot in him. That was the return for the Sam Reinhart trade. And obviously Reinhart has paid off for Florida. As we go back up towards the top of the hub, A relatively underwhelming week for Stuart Skinner. 2 wins, but a 3.67 goals against, 885 save percentage. So that's not great. So if you own Skinner, at least you're getting the wins, and the Edmonton Oilers look good in general, but not the best week statistically for him. And another conversation to be had, Rittich versus Kuemper. Rittich did not start at all this week, which sucks. The 97th percentile team defense is excellent, and that is why Darcy Kuemper is up here at 16. He had 3 starts this week, 2 wins, 2.33 goals against, 921 save percentage. So if you grabbed Kuemper when he came back off of injury, that was the smart play. I hemmed and hawed and ended up not taking him, which was a huge mistake on my part. He is 69% owned now, so he's probably not available for you. He is currently starting. They're down 2-0 as I'm recording this video. So hopefully I can get some more starts out of Rittich or Lankinen. I've got both in the same league, so that is disappointing. But with that said, there's a number of great options here. Vejmelka, we've been talking about for weeks. He picked up 3 wins in 3 games, which is crazy for him because he does not pick up wins ever. 2 goals against average, 922 save percentage. I'll chalk that up to me dropping him. So you're welcome, everybody. With that said, you also have Blackwood, who's rocketed up to the number 12 position on the hub. Look at this, going from San Jose to Colorado. It's been a really nice renaissance for Mackenzie Blackwood. Now well above expected, 83rd percentile there. Tons of save volume from his time in San Jose, but he's now also hitting the wins. So 2 wins in his last 3 is nice to see out of Blackwood. As I'm pulling up his ownership percentage, he's probably not there for you. In a 12-team league, he's at 67% owned, so about where Darcy Kuemper is, so you're probably not going to find him there. And then I just did want to touch on Dustin Wolf. So Vladar is a lot further down here. I don't even know if I'll be able to scroll and find him as I'm talking. Yeah, there he is, down at 48. But Dustin Wolf, he's a lot better at home than he is on the road. I don't have the stat right off the top of my head, but I believe he's won each of his last home starts dating back to, early November. So he's relatively good at home, almost unbeatable at home, and just not that great away from home. He did lose his last start against Boston, but he made 31 saves on 35 shots, so not a bad effort. And he did have a shutout right before that against Florida on December 14th. So of those, 940 save percentage, 2.0 goals against, 1 win in the last 2 games, I would imagine they're going to start giving him a couple more games now, with Vladar kind of struggling and him kind of improving into what they thought he would be coming out of his 2-time MVP performance in the AHL. So just a lot to digest here. Just wanted to touch on a couple of guys here and there, a couple of trends as we look for some goaltending off the waiver wire. There is a case to be made for a buy low on UC Saros if you're interested. The numbers haven't gotten there yet, but the goals against is pretty good, 2.67 despite this team defense. And that's without a lot of their top D. So Roman Josi should be back in the lineup at this point. They should start to get healthier, and they've put Forsberg, Stamkos, and Marchessault together as a forward line, and they have been relatively productive by their standards. So if they can start to score, that will hopefully help this ratio. Only 7 wins in 27 games is atrocious, but he gets a ton of start volume and a ton of saves. He is above expected, so this could be the perfect buy low opportunity on UC Saros. He's obviously owned up, so you're probably not going to be able to grab him off the waiver wire. And if you can go out there and try to float a trade offer for him, this would be the opportune time to do so. But if you can't, don't worry. There's a lot of guys available on the waiver wire anyway, and there's always a ton of injuries that we've been seeing. Obviously, Toronto going through it a little bit with Stolars, who used to be a little bit higher than this, but has trended down just a little bit because of health. Still playing really good hockey, but no games in the last week. So that will bring up Joseph Woll. And Woll has been improving week over week back since November 9th. So 1 win in his last 2, 3 goals against average, 906 save percentage is really nice there. He is a little bit more owned up, but probably 83% not completely owned up. He should be available for you in some really shallow leagues, and I would definitely want that exposure this week. Starting to ramble on now, so I think we'll cut it there. Let me know if you've got your eye on anybody in the comments section below. Just wanted to remind you guys that if you want access to this hub or the player hub, you can find that in the link in the description below. I want to wish you guys a happy holiday season, and I'll see you next week.